Hello, BookTube. you know, you know, I love books. That's going to sound completely redundant on this channel, but it's not just that I love reading them. I love writing them, of course. I've been writing books for fun and for NaNoWriMo for years now. Wouldn't do without it. Though any of you who have tried NaNoWriMo, any of you who have tried writing, for instance, fiction, will know what I'm talking about. You develop an itch. You don't want to stop doing it. It stops being work. It starts being something that really does add to your sanity instead of detracting from it. But in addition to reading books and writing books, I also like to help writing books. I review them, of course. That's another aspect of my relationship with them. But I also like to help people write them. In all aspects of that, all stages of writing a book, I've had some over the years, over the decades. I've had some very practiced writers who just wanted a careful eye to look over their work. One old friend of mine from decades and decades ago, when I reviewed books the first time in my weird career, he used to say to me, "Well, every novelist that I know who's been savaged by a reviewer has said privately, well, boy, I wish somebody had noticed those problems beforehand. And here I've got a reviewer as a friend, so I'm going to have you review my book before I submit it. Maybe that'll make for less savaging." I've also known people, sadly, for one reason or another, who could not finish, or in some cases even start, the manuscript that for which they'd already been paid. And if we were friends or associates, they would sometimes turn to me to help out. And everything in between. I've lost count of how many manuscripts I have carefully, patiently nursemaided out of debut writers. And I've lost count of how many fragmentary or limping manuscripts I have weighed in on, helped the author with. And then all the way to the other end of the spectrum, people who don't need any help and would just like another set of eyes that they trust to look at their manuscript. I love doing that. I always have one or two projects in hand to do that kind of thing. It just always happens to be true that I almost never go a long period without having a project like that in hand. Some behind the scenes project where I am helping out with not the writing of a book or the reading of a book or the reviewing of a book, but the actual creation of a book. And it looks like 2020 is shaping up to be a very busy year in that regard. And that's great. I absolutely love that. This is meant to be a mark of enthusiasm. I love doing it. And one of the things, I'm not going to give too many details here because you kill a project by over talking it. But a young friend of mine has a work that he is doing. His strong interest, he will almost certainly be able to sell it. And he has wanted some structural help with it. And some structural help, some feedback, a sounding board, sometimes very good. Sometimes writers, especially young writers, don't have that at all. They don't have it, and some of them need it. Some of them, the girlfriend or the boyfriend, they're great, they're totally supportive, but they don't want to hear about nuts and bolts, and it wouldn't do any good anyway. They're not writers, they're not literary people. And a lot of the people that I've known in that kind of a pickle over the decades haven't had anywhere else to go either. So I've had a number of these people say, well, some of the stuff that you're saying about this manuscript in progress may be a little rough for me to hear, but boy, am I glad that I have someone to talk to about it. And we are in that stage. We are talking through his book. There's quite a bit of it that's written, quite a bit of it that's outlined. And it's got me thinking about its subject matter. Its subject matter is laptop computers. Its working title is Our Laptops Ourselves. I think that would make a humdinger of a finished title, but that won't be up to me, and it probably won't be up to the author either. But one way or another, it's a study, formalized and research-based as much as possible. There isn't much, but also anecdotal. Tons and tons of anecdote about laptop computers, this absolutely ubiquitous piece of technology that all of us have and that all of us use. And the book, there's a large amount of anecdotal stuff running throughout the book, just illustrating the million ways that people use their laptops. How incredibly personalized this has become. How there are some fetishistic, for instance, best-selling authors who have not given up their original laptop, even though it's really not powerful enough to access the internet anymore, and it isn't powerful enough to run any contemporary Word documents. So there's a huge Byzantine fan dance of how to get what they're working on in this relic of a computer anywhere outside the computer. It's the whole technical wing devoted to servicing what is, after all, a fetish. Just that is not as rare as you might think. There are a lot of big-time famous authors who have the ability to throw around their weight and be weird like that. A lot of them do. And I know people who aren't in that situation, people who are just ordinary people or ordinary writers, if there is such a thing, who nevertheless fall in love with a certain kind of laptop, a certain configuration, a certain set of programs, and also a certain ritual of work. We all set up our laptops, right? In the way that we like them. We set them up. We set up the desktop. We set up the wallpaper. We set up the flow of how we do the work on the laptop. Or even some of us festoon them with stickers or things like that. And therefore, getting rid of a laptop, changing it to something else is wrenching often. It's often wrenching in a way that changing a light bulb is not. and I think that's just fascinating. The more I've been reading the chunks of manuscript that I'm getting piecemeal, and also reading about the subject on my own, the more fascinated I am at it. And I thought, well, if I'm fascinated by it, I might as well use it as a flimsy justification to pry into your personal business. I love doing that anyway. So I want to show you, this isn't particularly book related, but I won't make it a long video. I want to show you my laptops and ask you to show me yours. And if you want to justify it as not just Steve being, a nosy old coot, we can always say that you are helping my friend with his research. Any more anecdotal stuff that we can provide, so much the better. So I want to show you my laptops and show you something of how I work on them. I have two in two different places, because for myself, and again, this is the kind of idiosyncratic detail that I want to hear from all of you if you're willing to do it. You probably aren't. But I don't like taking my laptop from place to place. I think that might have to do with growing up with a manual typewriter that was on a stool and I wasn't going anywhere. Even when the technology, so to speak, improved to little plastic, slimline, portable manual typewriters, I still preferred leaving them in one place and going to them, as opposed to taking them around with me. I have my phone, which is an incredible piece of technology that I take around with me. But I like my laptops to be in. I work in two different places. And this will not be true for a lot of you, because a lot of you are young, a lot of you are students. So you take your laptop to the library, you take your laptop to class. It's necessary that you walk around with it. And I used to do that, but I don't anymore. I work in two places. I work on the bed in this little book room, and I work on the couch out in the other room. You've seen me film in both cases. The bed in the little book room is perfect because it is surrounded by the books I love most in all the world. And it's a tiny little monk cell of a space. Don't be fooled by the fisheye of this camera. It's actually a small space, and it could be smaller. I wouldn't mind if it were smaller. And that's the advantage here. And then the advantage to the couch in the other room is that it's right underneath the window. It's sandwiched in between two windows. Not much of an advantage during the middle of winter, when there isn't much to look at, hardly any sunlight, and when, windows notwithstanding, that is a drafty corner. But oh my. In spring and late spring and summer, oh my, that corner. With the lilac bush in full bloom and the birds everywhere, and I can hear them bathing in the bird bath right below the window, and blue skies everywhere, and drafts coming from two different directions right in that corner. Oh my, that corner is... basically, I have a winter and a summer setup, although I don't use it that way. I make sure to go from one to the other every day. I think it helps to do that, to go from one to the other every day. So I have a laptop in both places. I have a laptop in one place and a laptop in the other, and I don't move them from place to place. and I want to show you them and talk just a little bit about how they work. So the one that I have out in the other room, I brought it in here, is my MacBook Air. This is from 2013. So this is a 7-year-old MacBook, and it works perfectly. It works every bit as well as the day that I bought it, which was 7 years ago. and part of the reason why it does is something that I've mentioned on this channel before, which is not technically part of this question, this nosiness of mine, which is not. I'm mainly interested for this video in how you use your laptop in terms of rhythm and appearance and setup and ergonomics, if you would. Not so much what you use it for. But one of the reasons why I still have this thing and it still works just fine is because all I do is documents. I don't do any video or anything like that. In fact, I no longer film videos on my laptops. I film them on my phone. So all I do on my laptops is word processing. I'll surf the web, sure, if I want to, but most of what I do is word processing. And for that, this MacBook Air from 2013 is just perfect. And I have, here, I want to show you it. One way that you can tell that I use it a lot is that I have worn down the keys. The A and the S are worn down. That's from all the typing. I've been fairly good with all the rest of them, but the A and the S have seen better days. I think it costs a mint to get them reprinted or replaced, so I'm not going to bother to do it. They're not cracked or anything. I've just worn out the groove for the letters. But I have my laptop wallpaper. I'm going to want to see all of your wallpapers. Clean up the porn, or in Olive's case, remove the spreadsheets and put something pictorial on there. But in this case, it reflects. There's another thing that I want to know, and I'm sure my friend would want to know, is, for instance, when it comes to your laptop wallpaper, how often do you change it, and what dictates what it will be, and why will you change it? That sort of thing. Do you make sure that it has broad borders? Do you pile stuff up in the borders? Do you make sure that it's inspiring or current? And for me, with the new laptop out in the living room, the wallpaper is always current. So in this case, I have Stephen Strait from the Amazon series The Expanse. I'm very happy for him. He has been a working, really reliable actor for 25 years. Been in Hollywood movies, been in classic cult movies, that sort of thing. Tried his hand in all sorts of miniseries, and finally has a hit. With the Expanse, he finally has a hit. This is a genuinely fantastic show, and he's fantastic in it, and so is everybody else. It's just so I decided to do that, and for this wallpaper, I like it because it's got a muted blue tone, very, very metallic. As you can also see, it's concentrated on the middle picture, because what I do very much is call up documents, and so I don't see that middle picture. I just see the gutters, and that's where I put my work. And as you can see, I've got some files on there now, and my goal, I have files on there now. Of course, the pull-up menu here has a trash can, all important for me. And I have down in the very bottom there, I have a file that says 2020. And my working process on my laptop is to put my pending work in files up on the desktop. And as I finish it, as I finish each of those files represents work. As I finish a piece of work, I do two things. I email it. All my work is for consumption somewhere, for somebody. I don't do anything private. So all of my work is for consumption somewhere. None of it is going to stay on this computer only. So the first thing I do when I finish a file up there is to get rid of it, is to send it where it belongs, send it to its intended recipient. And then the second thing I do once I've done that is to move the file down to 2020. Now, 2020 has, when you open it up, it has a whole bunch of other categories in it. Reviews for each venue by venue. I just sort them and put them in those separate subfolders. But the key here, and this is the kind of the working schedule that I'm talking about, the key with my laptop, with any laptop, is to clear out the desktop every day. Are you like that? Or is your desktop full of stuff? So you have to hunt around for it. My goal every day is to clear that out. Now, sometimes that's a column going all the way down the side of the computer. But my goal is to clear it out at the end of every day. And if I don't, if at the end of my workday at midnight, I still have stuff on the docket here, then the extent to which I do have stuff on that docket is the extent to which that workday wasn't a complete success. That's exactly how I view it. And I'd be curious to know how you do it, how you do your own stuff on your laptop. Do you do it like that? And do you get rid of stuff once you're done with it? That's what I do on this one. And it works. It works really well for me. And then when I'm done with that, or before I'm done with that, when I come back into this room, I deal with, it's another MacBook. And believe it or not, even though my MacBook Air is from 2013, the MacBook in this room is even older. That shows you what absolute workhorses these things are. This is the MacBook that I have in here. Solid state drive. Look at all those access ports. Incredible. This is just a MacBook. When you look at the label on it, it just says MacBook. This was before MacBook Air, MacBook Pro. This was before any kind of diversion like that. And it still works just fine. It still works just fine. And because I have the 2020 folder on the newer MacBook out in the other room, I don't have that folder on this desktop. Instead, on this desktop, I have nothing at all. I have the Phantom menu down at the bottom that will call up OpenOffice, it will call up Google Chrome, it will call up the trash can so that I can throw away stuff. But this laptop I use for stuff that I know I'm going to clear out right away. So if there's a quick turnaround 300-word review that I know I'm not going to wait on it, it's definitely not going to be sitting there at the end of the day, then I do that when I'm in here, I do that in that way. Do it, finish it, proof it, and then get rid of it. Send it away and then trash it. So that I'm not saving anything on this computer. And this is my background. It's a Starfleet background. Totally wonky, but I love it. I absolutely love it. As you can see, there's nothing on here. There's the, I wonder if I can call it up here. There's the Phantom, yeah, there we go. There's the Phantom menu on the bottom. The date, a trash can that is empty, my task finder, my application finder, and Google Chrome. But aside from that, nothing. This is for in and out work. This computer is for in and out work. So I don't, for instance, start any large things on here because I know I won't be able to finish them. And the goal with this older MacBook with the detachable battery is to get rid of it. Get things on there and then get them off there. So it's two different work strategies that I use, depending on where I am and depending on which laptop I'm using. And that's the kind of thing that my friend's book is all about. What are the million different ways that people use their laptops and why? What are their rationales? What are their goals? Do you fight with your laptop? Do you put tons and tons of pending work on there even though you know it's going to be staring you in the face because you know you're not going to get it all done? Or do you have some other flow of work that you use for your laptop? And if so, what is it? So I'm going to leave this video here. This was just a whim. I wanted to show you the ways that I use my laptop and ask you how you use yours. Now, of course, I'd be fascinated to read about that in the comments field, but what I really want are videos. So we'll see if any of you do that. It would have to be the young among you. The very old among you, the hopelessly old among you, will be using your laptop to film your videos, so you won't be able to show it to me. But maybe some of you use your phones the way God intended. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. I just thought it was fun. And sooner or later, somewhere down the line, 2, 3, 5 years down the line, whatever our laptops ourselves turns out to be, I will surely recommend it to you. I just thought it's a fascinating subject. That's all. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.